Hello, welcome. I'm Claudia. If you're new here, I share all sorts of planty content and of course any tip and trick I might learn along the way to help you grow a lush collection too. This year I want to start a plant feature series. So once a month I'll pick a plant that's really been impressing me or something like outstanding has been happening, or a particular plant that I maybe tried something new and it worked out wonderfully, and just feature that plant, let you know a little bit about its history, let you know its care, what I'm doing, and all of those things. Basically just a plant spotlight because I am loving it or being impressed by it a little extra. I'll still do favorites from time to time and like particular, maybe like a group of plants, plant care, or a genus, things like that. But I figured this will give me an opportunity to go in a little bit more detail on a specific plant. Without further ado, this month I'm going to be talking about my Anthurium Crystallinum. Can we talk about this leaf? This leaf made me want to feature it this month. I was initially thinking of another, like a different plant that maybe I love a little bit more. Not that I don't love my Crystallinum, but I don't know, I guess I just hadn't been terribly impressed by it until now. I mean, she's hard to miss. So yeah, let me show you. I may have to insert some B-roll because she is massive. I thought this leaf was huge. I believe this is the leaf. No, she gave me, this is the leaf she gave me in the cabinet, and I thought that was massive. And then when I moved her spots, I upgraded her, repotted her. She gave me this leaf, which I was like, okay, a nice jump. And then this leaf, I'm gonna have to measure it and insert on the screen how big she is, but she is massive. Now, if you can see a little bit of white speckling on it, I sprayed her down with an insecticidal because I don't know how much you can or can't see, but like right in this area, there is what appears to look like spider mite damage. And it could just be damage from when I'm gonna set it down because it's really heavy. It could just be damage of when it unfurled as it was running out of space. I noticed it went like behind the cord of the grow light that I have. It lives right above my IKEA Millsbo tall cabinet, and next to it I have a Soltic pendant light, and I noticed it went behind the cord and it was kind of pressed up against the wall. So I mean, technically it could be damage from when it was unfurling, but it does look awfully suspicious and like spider mite damage. So I went ahead and I treated it with an insecticidal soap when I watered it last time. But yeah, I wanted to take a moment. I'm gonna insert some B-roll of it so that you can better see her because she's really heavy to hold. But yeah, this leaf is just, it's so impressive. I don't even know what to say. As I saw it and I saw how much it was expanding and continue to expand, and honestly it's still a little soft, so it still may be expanding. I just didn't, I didn't even know what to say, and yeah, I had to show you her. I know there's a ton of versions of the Crystallinum, and I assume this is just whatever the common version of it is. The leaves are in general pretty dark, but it just looks like a traditional Crystallinum, like maybe the OG, I guess. I got this from BWH. I want to say either early summer or late spring. I'll insert the date and a photo. It was pretty small. I want to say like 3 leaves at the time, and I immediately brought it out of the soil. I can't remember if it had a plug or not, but like the moment, in fact, I received the plant mail as I was doing like a plants chores with you. So I opened it for that same video, and I'll link it if you want to see. But I opened it, I removed the soil and transferred it directly into pond immediately. So it's been in pond the whole time. It lived in my laundry area, like that rehab quarantine station I had, for a couple months, honestly, because I couldn't decide where I wanted it to go. And after that, I placed it in my Mills Bow wide cabinet, and that's when it gave me the first bigger leaf that I was pretty impressed by. And shortly after that, I discovered that it had spider mites. So I treated everything in the cabinet and I brought it out and decided I wasn't gonna place it back in the cabinet again. And then it kind of didn't have a home for another couple months. I think I placed it just in one of my kitchen counters, was getting very, very low light, if any. And it wasn't until I upsized it that I decided to bring it back into this room, like my office plant studio area. And I placed it on top of my Mills Bow tall cabinet, and I loved the way that it looked. And evidently it loves it too. I was a little bit concerned because I have a Soltech pendant light right above the cabinet. That light used to be there because I had a fiddly fig right in that spot, like a large tree before, so before the cabinet. But I was concerned that this was going to be way too much light for the Anthurium Crystallinum. And I did notice that the leaves are they're like going away. They're not facing up. So I do think that it is too much light. But I mean, something's gotta be right? I'm gonna be honest, since I placed the plant up there, I don't bring it down often to shower it or anything. So I usually just get my water jug and, you know, water, like top water, until the little gauge tells me there's enough water in there. But as I noticed this big leaf and brought it down and, you know, was concerned possibly about the spider mites and whatnot, I noticed that it actually has 2 other growth points. So there are currently 2 other baby leaves emerging, or maybe even 3 other growth points. I'll get close up so that you can see. But yeah, so it's hard for me to tell if they are separate plants or they're growing from the same mother plant, but there are 3 active growth points on the plant. And I mean, I didn't do anything. It just, I don't know, do anthuriums do that? I guess I should probably learn more about them now that I have a pretty decent collection of anthuriums going on. The other growth points don't seem to be nearly as mature as like they're not gonna grow anywhere near this size. I can tell that they're much smaller, or that they're going to be much smaller leaves, which is fine, but I am excited to get kind of a bushier plant. I briefly mentioned where she's lived before and its conditions, but I'll share what its conditions are now and what they have been ever since, you know, or what caused this leaf. So it's always been in pond since it arrived. I transitioned it into pond. It didn't shock whatsoever. I want to say that it was a pretty consistent grower. The leaves were kind of the same size though for a long time. And I've always watered with my nutrient-rich cocktail. I always include the recipe down below. The only thing that's changed over the last maybe 5-ish months or so is that I started adding silica into my nutrient-rich cocktail, or the other way around, because first you add silica, then you add all the other nutrients and fertilizers. But anyway, there is now silica in my nutrient-rich cocktail, so that's the only difference as of 5-ish months ago or so. And she lives on top of my Mills Bow tall cabinet. This room is usually pretty good in like the 55% humidity, although as of the last, I don't know, maybe month and a half or so, we have had pretty dry days where it's gotten to even like the 30s in here. However, when it's that dry, or even if it drops below 50, I do turn on my humidifier to try to bring it up to a 50% humidity in here. So it's never dry, or at least not consistently dry in here. In its current location with the Soltech pendant light, it is probably getting close to like 1,000 or 1,200 foot candles of light, which I do think is too much. I mentioned that the leaves are kind of going like this. I have this biggest leaf supported by a stake because it was completely horizontal pretty much on the plant, and I was worried that it might snap. But you can see even some of these other ones, they are pretty, like, they're not facing up or like toward the light, they're facing away from the light. So I do think that that is a lot of light. This is a plant that would probably be happier in more of a 700 to 800 foot candle situation. And I do plan to change that setup soon. So hopefully it will, you know, be happier with, I mean, not that it's unhappy because the leaf isn't bleached and look at the size of it, but you know, just to avoid any potential bleaching or burning of the leaves or anything like that. And then also so that they don't face out and down. It's currently potted in a 9-inch self-watering pot for Pawn, and I believe that I potted her up with you also, and I can link that video down below. She is very heavy, especially when she's freshly watered, but I mean, she likes it, and Pawn makes plant care so much easier, and I find it particularly helpful for plants that don't like to completely dry out, like alocasia and anthurium. A question I tend to get often with plants that I have in semi-hydro, Pawn, or even self-watering is how often do I fill the reservoir? And the answer is it kind of depends on the plant. For this particular one, I find that I can wait until the reservoir is completely dry and even wait a day or two before I fill that again. Or if I see it going low, then I'll just give it a little bit more, and then that's okay too. So I don't find this plant to be picky. I think that it kind of likes to stay more on the moistened side or like not dry out. And Pawn also helps with that. So even if the reservoir goes dry for a couple of days, depending on your environment, Pawn kind of self-regulates the moisture that the plant is getting, so you'll be okay as long as you know, again, depending on your environment, it's different for all of us. I know that for me, I've waited like 2 or 3 days once the reservoir is dry before giving it water, and the plant's been completely okay. I know that's not a super clear answer, and I'm sorry. I guess my advice would be, if you can, make sure that you keep the reservoir consistently at the same fill always. Like, that would probably be what's ideal for plants that are in semi-hydro. But again, I think you can just play a little bit with your environment. And then also the plant will tell you if it's thirsty. The leaves will start to curl. And as long as you catch it, right away, the plant will come back. In general, I do like to flush the Pawn once a month-ish, but honestly, it's like once I remember. Usually when I'm doing like deep cleans in the areas where the plants live, then that's when I'll wash the pots, and then anything that I have in Pawn, that's when I'll flush the Pawn, rinse it thoroughly, and kind of restart. But I don't measure the pH or do anything special like that. I just use my nutrient-rich cocktail that now includes silica as well. Pawn in itself has I forget which one of the ingredients, but it kind of self-regulates the pH, and I haven't had an issue where I've felt the need that I need to measure it and adjust or anything. So yeah, I just water as normal. All in all, I would say that this plant has been really easy, not fuzzy, adaptable to multiple environments and light levels. And yeah, it's a good anthurium to get started with if you're curious about anthuriums, or even, I mean, it's a good statement piece too. These do tend to be faster growing anthuriums and larger, like you can see a big jump, as you can see in my plant, from leaf to leaf. So they get pretty impressive pretty soon. So yeah, I would recommend this plant if you're curious about anthuriums. This is a great one that's easy. I would say easier than the clarinervium, and I found the clarinervium to be super easy and grows like a weed. And then also just really rewarding and very impressive as it grows. I think I mentioned everything that I could think of as far as this plant and its care, its environment. So if I missed something or you have questions, please write them down below and I'll get to you as soon as I can. But I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you're excited about this new series. Of course, if you hate it, then I'll stop doing it. But I just thought this was something fun to incorporate. And you know, give me a chance to kind of talk a little bit more about a particular plant and its care. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.